We're live. We start off the game. We're in the village of Donwallow. It's this village out in the outskirts, in the boonies, far from the smoggy cities that make up the rest of the land. This little village, just a farming village. These great swaths of pumpkin patches and wheat fields and various other grains and farmlands just in the surrounding area. Kind of hillies. It's kind of hilly and overgrown forests that kind of surround it. A creek runs through the town. Back long ago, it was a quaint, quiet little town. But in these days, it's not the safest. But that's just what life is like here. Since it's far from the protection of the steel walls and the black powder and the giant dirigibles and airships that can fly in the sky. We start, as every adventure does, in the little tavern. It's an inn. It's got a pretty rowdy nightlife. By rowdy, I mean, just a lot of people. Not really loud per se, but just getting a drink to help calm the nerves after all the incidents that's going on. We start with Modesty sitting at a table with a gruff man. He's sipping on his glass of whiskey. This is your superior, Modesty. His name is Edgar. He's kind of swirling the drink in the cup. You ready?
Yes, sir. Always ready.
Do you even know what you got yourself into here?
Well, no, but isn't that why we're here, to try to figure out what it is?
Yeah, I can see you. You got a curious mind. Oh, smart mouth, too. I don't know about you, but in this line of work, a smart mouth isn't the one that keeps you alive. His eyes kind of scan the rest of the tavern, and we see Branson and Alfred. What is Branson doing in this tavern?
So I actually think Branson would just be walking through the door, and I think you'd actually hear him before you see him. As he comes through the door, Branson has a large trunk, maybe 3 feet by 2 feet, on some rickety wheels, kind of like you would see in modern day airport luggage, and drag it along by a pole, and you'd hear the whining of the wheels as he walks through. Almost having to duck his head coming into the door. He's just over 6.5 feet tall, large, gruff-looking man. He'd walk in, look around the room, actually let his eyes settle on Edgar for a moment, kind of give a nod to himself and walk right up to the bar, but make sure he'd find a seat closer to the end where he could keep an eye on almost everything going on around him.
And how about Alfred?
I will probably be standing at the corner of the bar, tapping my hand between a glass of ale and a glass of whiskey. And as soon as I hear the crickety wheels of, I turn around. There he is. I grab my glasses and go sit next to him and slide him the whiskey. How you doing?
Alfredo, it's been a little bit of time.
Small world.
Very, very true. After our time in the city, wasn't sure if I was gonna see you again.
Yeah, that was rough.
Got any news on any toys for me out here? Any collections?
Nah. This isn't business. I'm just laying low, if you know what I mean. After, yeah.
Yeah, if you're
Don't
gonna
even
lay
know.
low, and I'll kind of nod over towards Edgar and Modesty. I'm pretty sure those are some hunters over there. Might want to stay off their radar.
Yeah. Or right under it, if you would.
Yeah, and these two Dawn Hammers, Modesty and Edgar, they stick out like a sore thumb amongst the commoners in their dirty clothes, farmhand clothes. And they're just these two Dawn Hammers just dressed up in their armor and their uniform with the sigil, the circle with the line through it, somewhere on it. Modesty. What are you doing?
She's kind of tapping the table. You can see she's kind of getting a little bit restless. Like, we got a job to do here, and why are we just sitting around drinking? And she's kind of, just kind of getting impatient, but can't say anything because this is her superior. And she's just kind of biting her teeth and just starting to look more and more antsy, I guess is the word. And she's looking around, and I mean, she recognizes Edgar. Notices, guy he's talking to, but has no real idea what's going on. And so she's kind of just scoping out the bar, the tavern here, and trying to figure out, why are we still sitting here? Why aren't we working?
Yeah, Edgar notices your restlessness. He says, "Still, girl, have to wait till nightfall. That's when they say it lurks about."
Yes, sir.
And in a little twinge of irony, after he says that, the saloon door just bursts open again. After the collector had stepped in, this young man, kind of unshaven face, longer hair. He's barely older than a teenager. He bursts in. Quick, there's the Gloam, it's approaching! Quick, everyone to their homes! And immediately, the bartender starts to just scoop up all of the drinks and the glasses that are on the bar and just throws them and grabs them away from the customers and the clients. And
oh, yeah, I was drinking that.
No, you got to get yourselves out of here. The bartender would say as you oppose.
I was like looking around. What's happening?
And as you look around, you can see just everyone immediately starting to jolt upward from their chairs and their seats and just run out of the door, following after the kid essentially that popped in. Everyone's in a hustle to move out. It's the Gloam, you see. Quick, better get somewhere and hide.
Well, do you have a suggestion?
I don't know, somewhere. Just get out of here. He's starting to get angsty himself, this barkeeper, and he's packing the towel and starting to descend into the cellar. Get on out. He'd chew one more.
I'll nudge my friend. Well, we should go, I guess.
You have a place in this town?
Well, I was living here at the inn, but I guess we're getting out.
And yeah, I feel like you, Alfred, you know of an abandoned barn on one of the outskirts in one of the farms that's been long abandoned, is kind of, ruined. You've been hopping there in some nights to avoid the fare of sleeping at an inn. But sometimes you come back to the inn because, you want a softer bed that isn't full of, ticks or lice or something.
Grab your stuff. I think I know a place.
As the bar starts clearing out, I'm guessing there's very few people in there now. Stand up, turn fully around, look right over at Modesty and Edgar, and just start laughing. Edgar, why is it every time I see you something like this happens?
At least you see me after it happens too.
Very true, very true.
Come on, Modesty, this is our cue.
Yeah, I think Modesty, as soon as she saw the young man burst in and say the Gloam is here, she kind of already started getting up from the table and started preparing, all of her gear, ready for whatever's out there.
And for those not in the know, the Gloam is this black fog that blocks out all light, that just kind of creeps in some nights. And it's a terrible thing that happens, and unspeakable horrors can sometimes claw their way out of it, and it's just a nastiness that people tend to fear. So yeah, and so as this bar is now empty, this tavern is empty of patrons. They're all scuttling off to their homes or hiding in cellars or who knows where they're hiding. But everyone, you hear just the sound of slammed doors and latched, locked up tight. Even the cellar door behind you, you hear a lock going from the inside as the barkeeper locks himself in there away from you, feeling that in his isolation he's safer than if he shares his hiding spot with someone else.
Come on, let's go.
I think one of the first things that Modesty would have done too, as she was getting all her gear ready, is that she would have taken out her hooded lantern and light it so that there's some sort of light.
Yeah, and that faint smell of gas is, the light ignites, and it's a somewhat bright light, but even in its brightness, it's casting these long shadows in this now dusk sky as the sun has long set and everything's illuminated just by the moonlight.
So we seeing Modesty like that toward Lantern. Branson will start reaching into his jacket, nod, and pull out a glass tube with metal on each end. I'll say, this might work a little better. Give it a little shake up, and it'll big bright light, almost like a flare. For 25 or so feet around, and no open flames this way.
No, damn, man. You still got one of those around? Well, I guess you led the way.
And as this light cast from this lantern and this contraption that Branson has, the four of you, the youngling Dawnhammer, the collector, and the man who's laying low, along with the senior Dawnhammer, begin to make their way through the dirt streets towards the abandoned barn that Alfred had pointed out. And the light of the things that you have that emit light are barely able to illuminate the area around you as this darkness just creeps in. It's just this wall of darkness beyond what your light can show. But things are eerily quiet with each step you take. Sometimes you hear the flutter of wings, a cawing, a twig snapping from somewhere else, the crunching of stone and pebbles beneath your feet and beneath your boots. You hear hushed whispers somewhere, muffled. You see the grass at your feet wave and move, kind of swaying. Yet there is no wind that you can feel. And just as the hairs on your neck start to stand up, as you become completely isolated from beyond the small town square of Don Wallow, as you crest over the hill and cross the creek over the stone bridge, you finally can see the barn illuminated from the back by the moonlight atop a hill, looking over a swath of land that has been long abandoned. It's overgrown with vines and weeds and such.
She's a beauty, isn't it?
A little better than that flea bag inn you had me at over in the city.
You know it.
All right, so my inside sources, we think that there's something lurking around. The look around Don Wallow. Been causing these frightenings these past few nights. I'm sure you two know, but that's why we're here.
News to me.
Just my luck, ain't it?
You know, them locals being all frightened by their sheep being sliced up and sprayed over their homes and windows. Nasty sight. Smells just plain awful. I'm sure this will be a nice view into the life of a Dawn Hammer, Modesty. Since you so foolishly sought us out.
There's nothing foolish about it, sir. The job needs to be done.
And as the four of you see this barn off in the distance, about maybe 50, 60 feet away, you hear some rustling from behind you, from whence you came. And it's rustling that you feel is like 15 feet away, just beyond the light of your light. You hear it distance and as it seems to approach slowly. What do you guys do?
I think first thing I'm going to do is stop pulling the trunk along and give us a few minutes without that squealing wheel, giving our positions away every step we take. And turn around and I'll stick that tube back into a pocket on the inside of my coat, dropping the light from that spell or from that item.
I'll pull out my dirk There was hidden in the inside of my long coat, and just play with it and keep it close to my hand. We should keep moving.
I've got my pistol at the ready. I'm trying to pinpoint where that sound is coming from.
Edgar whips around with this big blunderbuss. Anyone out there? He'd holler out into the darkness in the direction of the rustling. But as you put away your source of light, Branson, you can just see the darkness just fill in at where your light once shone. As only the light of this lantern that Modesty holds now illuminates, and it feels like the darkness itself is just pushing, straining against the light. And no one replies to his call into the night. But the rustling continues after pausing. And immediately you go, the smell of sulfur from the black powder, the thunderous bang, the light just emits from the blunderbuss in this explosion just for a flash, revealing what in this moment you can see just the trees, the boughs of the trees kind of moving in this lack of wind. There's nothing there as he just pellets some brush.
Yeah, I think I would try to conceal a squeal while I jump about the foot in the air from the sudden sound, because I was looking away from it and hold my ear. Oh, God damn it.
Alfredo, how far is that barn from here?
Over there at the top of the hill. We should book it.
Edgar, you said there's something going on in this town?
Yeah, but just listen for a sec. You hear more rustling. It sounds like just undergrowth and just something moving through branches and grass and bushes moving and stuff like that. We ain't alone.
Really? The hells. You'll see Branson reach down and there's a box that's been just kind of chained and hanging at his belt, and I'll take these a pair of gloves out and start putting them on. And the gloves are weird. They're like black and oily on the lower three fingers, but the thumb and the forefinger actually look like gritty and almost like dirt or ash on them. And he'll start pulling those gloves on. All right, time to get ready.
No, I'll just see me closer to him and try to use his hulking figure as cover. Get him between me and the rustling. You still got it? I'll check if my pistol is still there and loosen it a little bit on my belt.
Yeah. The rustling continues. Edgar is dead silent as he's just trying to listen into the darkness to see how many of them are out there. Essentially, he's hearing the rustling in multiple different directions.
Does
He
it sound
points that
like
out to you.
does it sound like we're surrounded?
Not yet, no. It's definitely one general direction, but at first it sounded like it was one direction, and then as it continued, it was like almost, in this 180-degree arc, essentially.
Is it possible to get a general idea of exactly where the sound's coming from?
You could try to listen in with Edgar and give me a perception check
All right.
to listen.
It's 15 on the dice and +5, so unnatural 20.
Yeah, so you definitely agree with Edgar that there are multiple sources of the wrestling. There's between 2 and 4 different locations that the wrestling is coming from. You can't tell whether it's kind of moving around back and forth, or it was just 2 separate ones. But at first you thought there was just one wrestling, and there's just wrestling almost everywhere in this area, this cone of area. You said you got a barn up there.
I think in that case, I'd pull that vial back out again, shake it up again, and try to toss it around to where I think some of the sound's coming from. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's effectively a light. I believe it's 20 foot radius.
Yeah. It's going to have a shrink radius because of the gloam, essentially. Because you kind of throw this glowing device of yours. And as it does, it kind of lands and bounces and thuds into the dirt. And as the light that it's emitted from it pushes back the darkness, you swear you see something retract away into the darkness. Not something like a creature, but almost as if the grass itself moved away from the light. But as you kind of give it a second, look, a second take, the grass doesn't look any different than before. The device it's landed next to a bush, and so the light is kind of perforating the leaves and branches of this shrub. And it's also kind of moving in the wind that you do not feel. But otherwise, other than that, you don't see anything. And the rustling stops for a brief moment as you launch the light into the darkness. Edgar would chime up and say, "Let's head to that barn. We didn't want to be surrounded here in the darkness."
Yeah, let's go. Come on. We're sitting ducks out here.
I think at that point, all throughout the town, you'd probably hear that squeaky wheel moving a little bit faster.
And as you drag behind this squeaky wheeled cargo, you feel like it would help drown out the sound of the rustling. But along with the squeaking, you can just hear as if the squeaking doesn't even exist. It just pierces your mind, this rustling, as it continues to follow the 4 of you. As you climb this hill, there was a rainfall recently, and the ground is slicker. Your boots catch with some of the mud at the base of this hill. As you climb, I would like Alfred to make a dexterity save, please.
That's 22. It's 17 on the die plus 5.
Something catches on your foot as you take another step. It was just a brief moment you weren't paying attention to where you were stepping, and it causes you to kind of stutter and stumble. But with your high roll, you're able to catch yourself easily, and you're pretty sure-footed in this moment. But as you look down to see what you could have tripped on, there's nothing there besides just the long grass.
The hell?
What, do you see something?
No. Must have tripped on something. Let's go.
All right. You make it up to the top of the hill where the barn, in its disarray, its rottedness, its shamble, it sits, a skeleton of what it used to be. Planks have rotten away from the rainfall, leaving holes in the ceiling and in the walls. But it's still a pretty dang good shelter if you're not wanting to be surrounded by who knows what lurks in the gloom. You see the chain link that's wrapped around the front. Huge doors to the barn. They've been cut away, probably by Alfred, a few days or even a week ago, as he stumbled upon it. What do you guys do?
Probably look like it was chained, cleverly cut, but looking like it was, and I will just flick it, and the chains would separate and pull it open and say, "Come on, let's get inside."
How about Modesty? How's she feeling?
Well, going inside sounds like a good idea at this point. Good defensible area. Get ready for whatever's out there. So she goes in, as soon as the door is open, she's going to go inside, find a good place to hang the lantern, so at least I can light the inside a little bit, and find a good place to hunker down, and she'll get her rifle out and basically aim it at the door, ready for something to burst in.
How about Branson?
So I think as soon as we get in, Branson would turn to Edgar. You really think this is that serious?
I mean, nowadays, anything could be serious. With all the shit storms popping up around these parts.
So Branson will open his jacket a little bit and tap the flintlock pepper box he has on his belt. Say, I still owe you for this. This has gotten me out of trouble more than once. So if you need my help, I'll stick around.
Yeah, I'm thinking, since you already made your way up here, might as well we could use a helping hand. And he would start to direct you, Modesty. Hang your torch over there, or hang your lantern over there. Sit by that window and aim here. We'll see if we can, just barking random, sensical orders at you.
I have as he's barking those orders, she always seems to be like maybe one step ahead of what he's like. She's already anticipated that this is where he's sending her, so she's, doing exactly what he says, but she seems to be just a little bit ahead of his orders.
What's Alfred doing?
I'll be
Modesty and Edgar are just making sense of the situation.
I'll be trying to open that rusty wrench I'm using as a bed, stuck on the rusty nails, and trying to open it and straighten it for to be used as a possible bed for the night. And having a very hard time doing it. Just doing very slow progress.
The air hits the four of you like just this mustiness as you guys had entered. It's dank and moist, and something could, stuff was growing in this abandoned barn from the time it's stood there without being attended to, the molds and such. But the lights of the lantern, the gaslight lantern that you hang on one of the studs coming out of one of the columns of the barn, it illuminates the barn in a pretty decent glow. Unlike outside, it feels like there's no thick darkness here in the barn. The gloam hasn't been able to penetrate the barn yet. And it's in this solace I imagine perhaps Branson kind of just looking out through the window of the barn and just seeing the moon high in the sky. In its full moon glory, shining with its meager light down to the land below. And it's quiet. You hear the scuttling of mice, the squeaking, as they scamper off from the new human activity in this barn.
Well, guys, plenty of holes, but it could do. If you don't need me anymore, I'll lay here.
You want to lie down in a time like this? I mean, it's your funeral. There are things out there. You heard him. I heard him.
Yeah. But could they get inside, though?
I don't see why not. He kind of looks to the open door.
Yeah, I take a second look around, see the dozens of holes from the broken woods and the ceiling. Yeah, I guess. I'll try pulling the ranch away from the wall towards the center of the room.
So I think after Edgar, nice little reminder that there's things out there, you see Branson walk over to his trunk again, and the pole that he's been using to drag it along, you'll see him kind of grab it and twist, and it'll pull out, and the big, like, stone head on the end that was connected to the trunk. Set that to one side, drop it, open the trunk, and you'll see him just start strapping different things on and getting a whole bunch of items prepared up.
Boy, you're setting for a party over there.
Better safe than sorry, yeah. And with that, he'll actually hit the two clips on either side of the lid of the trunk, and you'll see the inside of the trunk lid is actually lined with all different vials and all that, and there's straps on it, and he'll strap that onto his arm, and you can now see that the trunk lid actually doubles out as a shield.
Oh, yeah, good call.
That's super cool. And as you're assembling this shield trunk arm lid, you hear the pitter patter of rain hitting the wood on top of the barn. You can feel the rain droplets kind of pouring off and falling into this, one of the holes in the roof, and kind of, a continuous sound of it as it kind of just makes a puddle. And the rain at first was gentle, and now it becomes more of a downpour in a matter of moments. Lightning cracks across the sky, illuminating everything in a bright flash for a moment, and is followed by thunder a few moments afterwards. Another lightning strike happens, and in the moment of illuminatedness, there is an orange gourd, a pumpkin, in the entryway of the barn, at the two doors. It wasn't there before. What would Modesty like to do?
I think at this point, Modesty would shoot it, because pumpkins don't move on their own. So
yeah, you can give me an attack roll then, as you shoot the pumpkin.
Actually seems like a logical step to me.
21.
The pellets of your
This is a rifle. The rifle I'm shooting.
Just explode outwards as the gunpowder ignites and blasts forward, shooting your projectiles. And it just shreds the pumpkin, ripping into its gourd flesh. Just splattering, out in the distance, its gooey insides. You can see some seeds hanging from the from a part of its insides. But what you do notice, as you were lining up to fire, that the shadows cast over the pumpkin reveals that looks like it's been carved. It's got triangle eyes and like the mouth of a jack-o'-lantern. But it looks like Edgar, the face. It's got the thick mustache. It has a very vague semblance of Edgar, right as you see it right before you fire.
This is the pumpkin. The pumpkin looked like Edgar.
Pumpkin looked like Edgar in the brief moment before you fired, yes.
And it's squeal time for me. God damn it! What?
Immediately, Edgar would turn around. He's lashing some rope to tie something together, maybe a makeshift part of the barn to stop the rain from getting in. He turns around in a startled as you fired. One of the blazes with that. He kind of points around with his rifle as well.
I'll splatter pumpkin kind of and my warhammer. Think you got it.
And yeah, it's just a pumpkin as you kind of poke it with your warhammer. It's been eviscerated by the buckshot from this rifle. But you don't see any kind of carvings or shadows or markings on the front side of it. It just looks like an ordinary pumpkin to you that has been shot at.
Hey, step away from the door, man.
While they're looking at the pumpkin, I'm reloading my rifle.
As the four of you look away for some reasons, I imagine there's a rustling, similar rustling, that kind of like just scrapes against the wood of the barn on one of the far walls. You kind of look to see what it is. It's on the other side of the wall. You can't tell. As you look back, there's a second pumpkin, maybe a few feet off from the first one, just sitting there.
Oh, this is a fucking joke now. What the? I look towards Edgar and very shaken. I say, so what the hell is going on right now?
I have no blazes what's going on here. You're the one that brought us here. What are you doing up here? This is your barn. You tell us about these pumpkins.
Do I look like I have any idea?
I don't know, you tell me. He's aiming his rifle at you.
Easy
Listen
there,
here,
Edgar.
Don Hammer, Mr. Law. You said you had information about strange things happening over in this village.
Yeah,
Now
but
this is the first thing I've seen it.
I've never ever seen pumpkins.
Well, neither have I. So we have two options. Go over there and see what that's about, or stay right here, away from everything. And I'm choosing to stay right here, right on the center of the room. And I pull out my pistol and have it close to my dagger and looking around the various holes I've memorized in the wood of the barn.
Edgar kind of like, and he goes and walks up, the rifle in two hands, towards the second pumpkin and the first, kind of poking them both with the nose of his gun. He's outside of the barn now, standing over the second one as he kind of pokes it with the end of his rifle. He sees it as just a pumpkin. He kind of turns around. Ain't nothing out here. And then with a whip-like sound, you see something reach out and pull him out of view. He's just thrown. Ah! You hear a yell. And the sound of the rifle, along with the flash of the explosion, cracking and illuminating, what little you can see. And you hear, ah! And then the sounds of whatever is happening to Edgar slowly trails off into the distance. What would the three of you like to do?
Fuck! Did you guys see that?
Sir! So Modesty would try to get up and run towards the door to see if...
I would follow her, trying to get a hold of her, stop her from going to the door, but I'm fairly away. I wouldn't have time to get here. Just...
I think I'd take a second, put my hand on the blunderbuss on my belt, and say, to the hells, and start running towards the door.
The two of you that run out of the barn, or to the exit of the barn, you kind of step over one of the pumpkins. You look around. There's nothing in sight that you can see in the dim light of the lantern that's still within the barn. It's eerily quiet. You can just hear the sounding of the rain just wash out everything else. Excuse me. Just the rain as it pours.
How about any kind of like drag marks or anything like that?
In this low light, I'll need you to make an investigation check to...
Can I do that as well?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't see anything.
Yeah, me neither. It's really dark and I can't see.
Yeah, the rain just pours onto your heads and your clothes. And
While they were looking around, I would go back and forth, telling them, "We're gonna find anything in this weather. Get back inside, away from every hole, every door. Just stand in the center. Come on, let's get inside. What are you doing?"
Gotta try, Alfredo. We gotta try. And I start yelling out for Edgar.
your yells are met with silence. No one responds to your call.
This is way over my head, man.
I'd like to kick the pumpkin out of the barn.
Yeah, with one just solid kick, you kick the pumpkin. You kind of dent the flesh with your boot as it kind of just rolls out, flies in the air for a little bit and rolls out and down the hill and out of sight. And as you look back, as you're done, as you kind of watch it go off, just look down, you see a pumpkin a few feet from where the pumpkin you just kicked was.
More inside the barn or still outside the barn?
Still outside the barn.
Guys, we're getting beaten up by vegetables. Let's get inside. Come on.
And I would like Modesty to please make a charisma saving throw.
Oh dear. Oh, I made a 17.
Awesome. Yeah. So these apparating pumpkins, they don't. You're able to just shake off the weirdness of it for now. You just put it into some place in your mind. You're like, oh, we'll figure that out later. That doesn't matter now.
That's right. I got more things to think about.
Exactly. And what do you do?
I think I have no idea where Edgar was taken to. We have no idea. There's nothing we can do at this point. So I think I would go back into the barn and try to barricade the door.
I would very eagerly help her.
Yeah, and he's. Oh, how about
Get inside, Branson.
How about Branson? Yeah.
It'll take him a minute, but after a few seconds, with a resigned shrug, he'll just shake his head and walk back into the barn. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit.
Me neither, man. We just gotta make it through the night.
As you heave the wooden doors closed to this barn, and you kind of tie it loosely with the chain link that goes through and secures them. Just do a quick tie, because you can't lock it anymore. Because it's been long deteriorated, whether through rust or from vandalism. You've secured the door, barricaded yourself in. What else do you do to barricade yourself?
I'll go a seat right under the lantern hanging. With my cradling my pistol, trying to hide behind it.
Awesome. Yeah. How about Branson?
Can't think of much else that I'd be able to do to barricade this place, but I think he'd just be sitting, or not even sitting, standing about 5 or so feet back from the door, with his shield in front of him and his hammer on his shoulder, just staring at that door. And listening, I would, if I hear Edgar, or if I see anything through the cracks in the door or the surrounding walls.
How about Modesty?
Yeah, Modesty's looking around. She's got her rifle ready again. She's looking around, looking at this place going, there's just no way we could, if something wants in, it's going to come in because we can't board it up any more than it already is. So she's kind of prepared for whatever fight's coming. And she's got the rifle, ready,
so
trained. And
you see a certain corner perhaps where there's no holes behind you, but many in front of you. Maybe that's the spot where you'd see.
Yeah, that'd be a good spot to go into.
You're back to a wall that's intact, essentially.
Yeah.
And as you wait in nervousness, in tension at what's going on, or the lack thereof of what's going on, because all that happens for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes as they go on is just the downpour of rain. I would like Branson to make an initiative roll, please, as he is standing very much on alert.
That is 15 on the die. 17.
You see some kind of movement, a thin whip-like thing from behind one of the columns, one of the pillars of the barn.
Inside?
Maybe inside the barn, about less than 8 feet away from where you stand. What do you like to do?
Yell out. On your guard. We're not alone in here. And I would work my way around that column at the ready, ready to take a swing if anything is in front of me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and as you take the few steps needed to move around to the other side of the column, you see that there is something there. Something, the small whip-like tail, kind of a reddish-brown fur, 4 paws, big ears, a little snout, about this big. It's a mouse, a rat. I imagine you strike at whatever is behind this pillar?
I think I'd probably be about to. Then when I see it was a rat, let out an exasperated sigh. Never mind. Walk back and take up my position again.
As you bursted around the corner to see what it is, it kind of looks up at you, this mouse, with this rat with its snout, and it just bolts out through some crack, some crevice in the planks. But it gets stuck. It's a little too fat for this crevice. And it's halfway out, halfway in. You can see its tail whipping, in the air. It's trying to dig its way through with its hind legs and its front legs. Well, you can't see the front. You hear, the three of you hear more rustling. And then a squeaking sound. I can't do mouse squeaks, sorry. You hear very agonized mouse squeaks as the hind legs and tail fall limp. What is Modesty? How does Modesty react?
Think you're on mute.
You're unmuted again, yeah.
Sorry. She's not surprised. She's going to hide her disgust, so you're not going to see it. But inside, she's kind of a little bit disgusted of what just happened because she can envision the other side of the mouse rat. And it just kind of steals her resolve to, face whatever is going to come through that door. She just knows that there's going to be something, and she is ready. She's waiting, and yes, kind of girding herself for the whatever's out there.
How about Alfred? How does he react to this rustling and sound?
As soon as Branston yelled out, "On your guard," my reflex would kill my fight or flight. I would jump up and point at whatever he's looking at with a shaky hand with my pistol and see that it's a mouse and begin to calm down until what horrific thing happened to it happened, and then my hand would start shaking again, trying to find any words to say to the others to seek out comfort, but can't think of anything that would help. As I said, guys, away from any hole.
How about Branson? How does he react to this mouse that he just about splattered with his hammer?
I think he would have kind of been taken aback and step back real quickly, start whipping his head all around, checking, make sure there was nothing coming in any of the other holes or behind him at this point. If the rat couldn't get through that hole, nothing else was going to get through there, but want to make sure nothing's coming in another way now. Yeah, the paranoia is starting to kick in a little bit with Branson, I think.
I would like the three of you, please, to roll a d6 and let me know what your result is.
5.
3.
I'm a 4.
Awesome. Yeah. And as this commotion of this mouse kind of dies down, as you are able to as you stop holding your breath out what's happening, another crack of lightning happens in the distance, and it illuminates from one of the holes in the ceiling. There's this long vine that's hanging down into the barn. At the end of it is a smaller pumpkin hanging there, suspended 6 feet off the ground. And carved onto the front of its face, or on the front of its side, is the face of Modesty Gale in her likeness. Very crudely, but nonetheless like her.
This weird question. Is there any dents or anything in this pumpkin, like the one that Modesty would have put in the one she kicked down the hill?
You look at the pumpkin, and it looks like it's a very fresh, healthy pumpkin. No batters or bruise or buckshot or heel print or anything on it.
Well, I'm sprinting away from the center of the room towards probably Modesty, since she's further from the main doors, and try to snuggle up next to her. Does that look like you?
I don't know, does it?
The edges of the room aren't safe, and apparently neither is the center.
That's just a little creepy.
Maybe you should shoot it. You shot every other one.
And at that, she's going to lower the rifle. And as she walks towards the pumpkin, she's going to pull out her rapier and kind of just slice the pumpkin with the rapier.
As you stand up, or uncrouch, putting the rifle back in its holster on your back and pulling out your thin rapier. As you take a step forward, the vine tip snaps and the pumpkin falls with a thud into the hay, the moldy hay below. And it just looks like it's almost caved in a bit at the thud, at the harder landing. And you can see what looks to be blood spilling, leaking from the cracks formed by the kind of the crushed part of the pumpkin and pooling out into the spot below.
Ew.
I also would like you, Modesty, to give me a charisma save, please.
13.
One second, I missed the page. That charisma save, however, is a failure. Here we go. I would like you to roll a d10, please.
1.
The pumpkin, it no longer is a pumpkin to you. You see your own hair, undone, let low, or let down, just in a pile on top of the head. You see your own eyes staring at you, unblinking, glazed over. You see your own jaw broken where the pumpkin landed. Blood just pooling, drooling from your mouth into the straw below. You see these just thin scratches and scrapes all along your face, looking at almost like it's been shredded by something, but it's still intact. Just the blood droplets just beginning to pool and bubble outwards of these many miniature, like paper cut style cuts. You are paralyzed for the next minute as you just stare at your own face in horror.
So while Modesty's staring down at this pumpkin, I'd actually like to walk up, grab the vine, and give a big tug.
Yeah, and as you approach the pumpkin and you look down, you see just like pumpkin juices kind of oozing out from the splattered side that it landed on. A loose seed, perhaps. It looks like it just, kind of like a very ripe pumpkin just, got smushed a bit. You step past it and you give the vine a tug, and it snaps with ease and just drops, kind of coiling at your feet. It's about the 6, 7, 8 feet long that needs to be from the top of the roof down. It's not attached to anything on the other end.
Just the pumpkin again. What is it with these vegetables?
You all right there, child?
Oi, miss?
She doesn't respond to you. She just she's staring at the pumpkin and not moving.
What's up with her?
I don't know. Her boss just got pulled away. We're stuck in a shitty little barn. Something surrounding us and darkness everywhere and bad weather. Maybe checking out's not such a bad thing. Keep an eye on her, would you? And Brance will start walking towards the main doors and kind of start finding any cracks he can to look out and just watch for a few minutes, see if he sees any kind of movement or anything like that, or see if darkness is still basically surrounding us.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, as you kind of step out and look at through one of the windows or holes in the in the planks. You can see that the thick, impenetrable darkness is within inches of the barn. It just looks like this wall of darkness as you look out. There's nothing. You can't even see the ground below. You can't see the sky above anymore. At least not through this window. And you're kind of confused. You may look up at a higher hole and you can see the moon from higher up, but not through this one.
What do you see over there?
Whole lot of nothing. I kind of miss the city, Alfredo.
Yeah. Big lights. That's what we need. God damn it. It should never have gone away.
And I would like the two of you, Branson and Alfred, to make perception rolls, please.
That is 13.
That's a 7 for me.
Okay, cool. Modesty, as you come to your senses again, as you blink your eyes and you just see a kind of ripe pumpkin just smushed into the hay at your feet. No longer is it your head bloodied and scarred and scraped. You are no longer paralyzed. What would you like to do?
As she comes back to her senses, she kind of, touches her face a little bit and then kind of gets angry and kicks the pumpkin. Just gets it away from her as far as possible.
Yeah, your face is very much normal. And you kick the pumpkin. And it just splats against the wood of
God damn it.
the barn. It's like it's very ripe and just splatters. You see the seeds and the guts of the pumpkin kind of just splat. And it just immediately, drops to the ground, but leaves a smear of pumpkin gut on the inside of the wall.
Hey, what's up with you? You okay?
I hate pumpkins.
That is very much apparent.
Welcome back. Edgar, say anything about what you two were hunting here? Do you know anything?
No, he just kept telling me, tell you when you need to know. I'll tell you when you need to know. I kind of think I need to know. It's a little bit late now.
That man has not changed in 30 years.
Well,
I kind of wish he was here right now, though.
Guess we're gonna find out ourselves.
The conversation is interrupted by the sound of creaking wood from up above the three of you. It creaks and it strains. And if you were to look up, you'd see... Oh, we lost Karen. I will pause.
It got here too!
I got her too. Yeah. I am going to pause what I'm going to say until she comes back because I want everyone to hear it for the first time at the same time.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Hey, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
We don't think you missed anything. The sound of the wood creaking and straining above you as you look up. You're able to see wood been splintered and opened right above where your lantern hangs. And as the rain continues to fall through this new hole, this new opening, it sputters, the flame sputters and spits and is doused.
Oh.
And immediately, the barn is just completely in darkness. You hear more rustling from all around. What would you guys like to do?
Shit. I'll pull out my own lantern that I try to fiddle and find it in my waist and try blindly to spark it up and light it. Shit.
I think as I see him start messing with the tinder and start the sparks, I'll just hiss, "Hold on, hold." And what I'd like to do is I'd like to wait till the sound gets a little closer before I pull another one of them tubes out and light the whole area up.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I imagine that both Alfred and you kind of make light at the same time as the spark ignites the gas, and you finally hear the rustling approaching closer and closer. You activate the light of your little canister device, and immediately the barn is illuminated again as the darkness is pushed back. And all amongst the straw of the bed of this barn, you see half a dozen pumpkins
Oh.
and dozens of viney tendrils that have just snaked their way into the barn from every single crack and opening.
Kill it with fire.
Branson, you see your own face carved into one of the pumpkins. And likewise, Alfred, you see your own in another. The faces are a little more distorted this time. They look like your face has been distorted in like anguish or pain or even fear.
So are they all in like one area or kind
All
of
around. All around, surrounding you guys.
What about the main door? Are there any between us and the door?
Yes, there's one pumpkin. That's the one with your face on it.
Ooh.
Fuck that. Nah. I'll pick up my lantern and I'll instinctively try to inch closer to the others. Probably Branson, and keeping a good look at the vines or the pumpkins, waiting for any movement as I slowly walk towards him.
As you move and your perspective, your line of sight changes, you notice along one of the far walls is this just streak of blood on the wood. And as you follow it, as you follow it with your eyes, you see what looks to be the front half of a mouse wrapped in this creeper vine, wrapped, coiled around it a few times, just like slumped and shredded over at the base of the wall, at the end of this blood smear.
Oh, I don't think we're safe in here.
It's clear to the door. Let's get out of here.
Modesty,
I'm right
you're
behind
a little. Sorry, yeah. Modesty, you're a little closer to this blood smear than the other two. And you swear you see, based on the knots and the grains in the wood with the blood smear, you swear you see letters, words written out, kind of in negative in the blood. just kind of squint your eyes in this lamplight, in this artificial light created by Branson. You see the words, "You can run, but you can't hide."
I as soon as I read it, I make sure, I'll let these guys know. I say, "Hey, wait a second, guys. There's a message on the wall," and I read it out loud to them.
Oh, great. Well, looks like we know what we're doing. We're running.
To where?
Dawn.
I don't think going outside is going to be a good idea. I mean, look what happened to Edgar.
I don't know. Staying in here is a much better idea.
It's just whatever that thing is, it's toying with us at this point. We sit and wait, or we try to make a run for it.
Well, it doesn't like the light. That we know.
Oh, we got plenty of that.
You know what? And when Modesty says it doesn't like the light, see a little smile come over Branson's face. Let's get those doors open. I got an idea.
Modesty looks at him kind of quizzically, and then, well, I haven't got a better idea, so she goes to the door to open it up.
I'll hang my lantern on a hook on my belt and pull out my pistol. Well, I guess we're going. And take a hold of the other side of the door.
I'll look at you together on 3. We open.
Let's do this.
1, 2, 3. We open the door.
As you heave the door open, it creaks as the wood strains, on its hinges. It's heavy and old. It's just this blanket, this wall of darkness that you see from beyond.
I'll start backing out. Don't leave the circle of light. And as I get out of the barn, I set my warhammer down, and you'll see that those gloves I put on earlier, where it looked all oily and gritty. You'll see Branson start snapping his fingers, and as the oil and the gritty part make contact, you start to see little sparks. And he'll pull like a water flask off of his belt and squeeze as he's hitting the sparks, and you'll see a 15-foot wide cone of fire shoot out, and it's going to any living creatures, it's going to burn unless they make a dex saving throw, but it's also going to set ablaze anything flammable within that 15-foot cone.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like the heavy rainfall, when it hits the fire you've spouted off, just erupts into steam that just hisses outwards into the darkness. The flames lick at the darkness, revealing, the grass, the muddy grass on this top of this hill, and the hundreds of pumpkins everywhere that you can see from this vantage point surrounding the barn, accompanied with just innumerable creepy leafy vines that join them all together in a meshwork, vininess. But the flames don't seem to catch much on fire in this downpour and moisture.
Well, that's a bad way to run across.
I'm sorry, God.
I was just gonna say, I don't think we're going that way.
Question: did any of the vines and all happen to kind of pull back from the flames when that first went off?
Absolutely. It'd be the opposite of pulling back. It'd be just like they were approaching. You saw slight movement,
Okay.
and then it stopped in the light. So you kind of like stopped it, and then as the flames died down from this spark, you hear amidst the downpour of rain more rustling. And I would like you to make a dexterity saving throw, please.
That is a total of 5.
Something
Strong 5.
catches your foot, Branson, as you are whisked away into the darkness.
Probably all you hear is, "Ah, hell," as he gets pulled along.
You feel leafy vines wrap around your arms, your neck, your legs, and they begin to pull.
So, question for you. Did I drop my vial with the other 2, or my light source with the other 2, or did that come with me?
You can decide.
I'm thinking he probably dropped it, and got pulled out of the light.
And so what the two of you see is Branson just pulled off by a vine that just snaps out from nowhere, from the darkness, wraps around his neck, and just yanks him off into the darkness. You hear him try to muster some kind of yell, but his airway is blocked off by this tight vine around his neck.
But I would be looking away towards the field of pumpkins, and I would catch from the edge of my vision Branson being taken away. Oh my God. I would step clumsily without looking anywhere back inside. Well, we know what's happened. That's what happened to your guy.
Yeah, and while Alfred is doing this, Modesty yells out like, "Not again!" And so she scoops up the tube that he lit, that Branson lit, in one hand, and she's got her rapier in her other, and she goes out the door to find out where Branson was being taken to. She's not going to let another one go. Not this time.
The light of this device you have, this glow stick, it helps you carve through the vines as if they were butter in feeling, as they don't grab you. You're safe from them for some reason. As you walk, your stride slow at first, maybe sprinting at first, but then having to slow down as you're starting to wade through the thick vines of the pumpkin vines and stepping over the pumpkins and such. It's thick. It's, you have to step over and through, and your boot gets caught, for a few seconds, and one, you're able to yank it free. And as Modesty descends down the hill into darkness,
mention something.
Yes, what is Alfred?
As terrified and horrified completely, he would definitely not want to stay in here alone, so he would just, oh no, just run, trying to stay in the circle of her light. This is the worst idea, while being directly behind her, looking at his feet, not watching us for any rogue vines trying to grab him as well.
Yeah, and you follow behind Modesty's light. You're trying to stay within the light radius. But you're on the edge. You're unable to catch up to her as quickly. I would like you to make either an athletics or an acrobatics check to maneuver quickly through the thick viney undergrowth.
Acrobatics, please. That would be. Oh, that's a 14.
And so yeah, you're able to maneuver pretty swiftly and catch up, staying within Modesty's glow rod light.
Just hold on a sec. As I'm yanking my coat, being stuck on any pumpkin and vines, pulling it behind me.
The two of you, as you begin to wade through the pumpkin patch, you see, illuminated finally by this glow rod, a figure suspended off the ground, arms, legs, held up by vines, holding him. You see Branson, just 10 feet away in front of you, held up. And instead of his head, you see a pumpkin.
Oh.
As soon as I saw him, I would yell out, "There he is!" Like, hoping that we might be able to scoop him up, and then I would see the head and say, no. We should go.
I would like the both of you, please, to make a charisma saving throw.
14.
12 for me.
Okay. I'll get you to get I'll get Alfred to roll a d10, please. However, Modesty, you're able to keep it together for another moment as you look upon Brance's body and you see the pumpkin has a hole around its base, as if the pumpkin is over his head rather than like replacing it.
Okay.
And
Well,
you
that's a
see the
7.
shallow movement of his chest going in and out. So you got a 7.
Yeah.
You are overcome with some kind of emotional turmoil here. For the next 7 minutes, you're incapacitated, and you have to spend the next 7 minutes just screaming, laughing, or weeping, just as these emotions just fill your mind.
That is absolutely what I do, looking at his corpse. Or at least I think that it is his corpse.
Branson, you are held tightly by wrist, ankle, and neck by vines. You're gasping for air, but you can feel your own breath being pushed against your face. You're smothered. The smell smells like the inside of a pumpkin. You can't see anything. What would you like to do?
Well, tied up like this, I can't get to any of my stuff. So I really think the only thing I can do would be to try to brute force my way out and kind of pull on the vines as hard as I can.
Yeah, give me a strength check, please.
Strength. 19.
Nice. And as Modesty approaches Branson, his shallow breathing, kind of quickens a bit and returns to a normal pace. You see his arms start to strain against the vines, and one of them is uprooted. You see the whip-like lash of the vine being kicked back. You see the kind of like the roots and like a bit of loose earth flying over as this completely unbalances Branson as he falls kind of face first into the vines and mud and pumpkinness at the ground below in this light. And Branson, you have taken 6 points of damage from this whole ordeal, just from being whipped around in the pumpkin patch and brutalized in scary ways. And you weren't even aware of most of what happened, but you ended up somehow shoved inside a pumpkin and suspended in the air.
Is the pumpkin still in my head?
Pumpkin is still on your head, yes.
Yeah, so I'm fairly certain the first thing he would do, feel around, find a rock of some sort, and just kind of hit the pumpkin against it and try to break it off.
And you're able to do so. You find, perhaps you actually find on the ground a hoe that's been left in the dirt for ages, and you feel the blade, and you can kind of just like puncture the pumpkin and peel it off. And you use the blade maybe to cut out the vines around your other arms and at your ankles. But there you sit, alone, with all three of you alone, in the midst of this newfound pumpkin patch that wasn't there before, surrounded by vines. They can just hear rustling from beyond your light. What would you like to do?
Well, first off, I think that light would be fading, because that tube only lasts for a little while. So when I see that Modesty has it, I'll reach out and I'll twist the top and kind of give it another shake to relight it for another minute, and then just sitting there breathing. See me reach down to my belt, start going through the tubes again, and pull one out with a plunger on it, with a sharp needle end, and I stick it in my chest and push it down. It's basically I'd be casting Cure Wounds on myself.
Cool.
Plunger
Needle style, yeah.
Adrenaline
boost.
That's actually going to put me back to max, because
Nice.
I was down to 3. My max is 9. I rolled an 8. So.
How about Alfred? How is he reacting in his state of madness at the scenery and surroundings and circumstances around him?
Nearly pissing himself with laughter, seeing how he fell to the ground and peeled his own head that it wasn't actually his head, and then stick himself with a huge needle. I would just laugh so much my throat would close up. You're not actually dead!
Not yet. It's early yet. I hit mute and then started talking. Can we see the moon at this point?
Yes, you can see it above as your glow stick rod, as you reignited it, batters back a little small area of light for you, which carves into this darkness, and it shows the moon high above. But you swear, as the light dimmed first, before you reignited it, that some rustling you saw out of the corner of your eye as it shimmied its way a little closer in the dimming light. Then as you relighted it, it stopped moving. And as the three of you stand there, concerned and scared for your life, I would like the three of you to make a dexterity save, please.
6. 8 for me.
14 for me.
And from my agile me, it will be a 9.
Both Branson and Alfred, something is launched at you from the distance. But you only see it as it, breaks through the darkness and just slaps you right in the chest or in the face. This hand, for you, Branson, dismembered, claps against your cheek and kind of falls to the ground below. And for you, Alfred, it's a boot at the end of a leg, also dismembered, in leather armor and leather leg, as it just kind of kicks your chest. At the top of the arm, it's still got the kind of, chain and leather armor bits, and you see the circle with a line through it at the top on one of the pauldrons, the Dawnhammer insignia. You see the weathered, wrinkly hands with the black fingernails of Edgar, as just kind of claps you in the side of your face and falls to the ground. These two body parts land at your feet. Each of you take 2 points of damage from this thrown body part.
Yeah, and the laughing would quickly turn back to screaming.
Does Modesty recognize? Does Modesty see that stuff as they're being pelted by these body parts?
You saw the two body parts emerge from the darkness, and you're able to duck out of sheer instinct in time and just see your two companions just get hit with them as they were facing the wrong way.
So I recognize the insignia. And,
absolutely, you saw it.
Yeah, so I'm kind of go real pale. Kind of want to throw up. Yeah, this is that's not very nice. It's very not. So when we were walking towards where we found Branson, were we going more into the woods, or were we going more back to town?
You have no idea. It's so dark. You just followed sheer instinct. Perhaps it's back to the town. You're backtracking, but you don't know which way you went.
I gotta assume at this point we don't know which way back to the barn either.
I kind of want to light a big bonfire. It's kind of what I want to do.
That's what I tried to do, but I don't think in this rain it's gonna happen.
It's gonna take.
You hear rustling from all around, from beyond the lights of your glow. It rustles, and along with the downpour of rain, you feel your clothes are completely drenched. You can feel the coldness, the wetness to your bone standing out in this downpour.
Do we just keep walking?
My answer would be more screaming.
I guess so. Looking around at the bunkins and the fact that I was just strapped up here, not quite so sure sitting here is safe. Barn wasn't safe. Hell, the only time we were not being attacked was when we were on the move to the barn.
Yeah, so I think we just keep staying on the move.
I would follow them laughing at their backs.
As you trudge your way in some direction, you just pick one and start walking. You use the light of this dimming now light as Alfred comes back to his senses. His hysteria has passed. But as you move, you can feel the squelching of the mud beneath your boots. You have the creepers, the vines at your feet. They're thick. They impede your movements just by being there. You step over countless pumpkins, each one carved with a face of one of you, each staring you dead in your eyes. As you step past it, you swear it had turned to look at you as you kind of look over your shoulder.
I think at this point, as we walk, every time I'm just swinging my warhammer back and forth, and every time I come within reach of one of these pumpkins, I just give it a little crack as I keep walking.
Yeah.
I just look ahead, try not to stare at myself. As soon as I catch one that might look like me, I just look the other way immediately. I'm done with that.
Lightning strikes yet again, this time much closer than the previous lightning strikes. Crack! It's followed quite quickly with the sound of the thunder. It's almost deafening how loud it is.
Minor squeal.
It struck some tree off in the distance, shrouded by the gloam, this thick fog, this darkness. But it's fire. The tree, as it's been struck, it catches ablaze. Even in this downpour of rain. It's a steamy, wet fire, but a fire nonetheless. And it lights up the area around as it spreads from tree to tree, from bush that's in the shade or covered by trees, is a little drier there, and just spreads. And you can see just this backlight. This you can see all of these pumpkins and vines and creepers backlit by this line of fire as part of a forest just catches ablaze by this lightning strike. The light from it illuminates a section of this field, battling back a lot of this thick darkness. You can see the barn at the top of the hill, the moon high in the sky. You can also see figures, indiscernible from this distance, but they're moving, silhouetted by the flame, moving towards you. They move very alien-like, not like a human would. Don't even think they have legs or arms.
How far away are they?
100 feet, 200 feet, maybe even.
Is that help?
I'm going to take my rifle and I'm going to shoot one.
Yeah, as you shake with your shaking hands, you bring up the rifle to aim good enough, you fire, and the shot gets nowhere even close to the creature, these figures in the distance. It's too far out of range.
No. Guess not friendly then.
Has anything been friendly tonight?
Well, I guess we shoot anything that moves then. And I pull out my pistol.
So I'm going to reload my rifle because I know I'm a better shot than that because I trained all my life for this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to, go reload my rifle. Take a deep breath. Refocus.
What does Branson do?
I think he's just standing there in thought at this point. After a couple of seconds, while folks are reloading and all, so whatever they are, they stay away from the light. That fire over there is the best light we're gonna get. But they're between us and fire. I think we need to move right through them.
I agree.
Works for me.
As you're talking and discussing and starting to move towards the flame, this wildfire, as these figures approach closer, and then finally you can make out what they look like. The reason why they looked so creepy and unusual, they're not creatures at all. They're just ripples in the vines as they're snaking out away from the forest, as they just, rippling out this wave, forming these incoherent shapes and figures, as one passes the other, and you mistook them for moving figures silhouetted backlit by the flame. But as they approach, you just see they're just masses of these vines just uprooting themselves and moving away from the flame towards you.
Maybe we should. I'm gonna pull out a torch from my my backpack, and then we'll light a torch so I have open flame as well. And once that's lit, I'd kind of like to try to maybe light. I know I'm going to try to keep it sheltered a bit, but I would like to try and light the stuff that's at our feet.
Okay. You try to. The stuff is very wet, and it would take either a lot of time, which you might not have, or some way to dry them off. Like the flame just won't catch.
Okay.
These viney shapes continue to approach. They've closed half the distance. They're between 70 and 80 feet away from you now, as you slowly advance. If you
I
so
pull out
choose.
my dirk.
I've got my
So
rapier
tired.
ready.
I'll bang the head of my warhammer against the trunk lid shield, and actually, as it hits, you'll actually notice some sparks there too. And I'll just start striding forward.
I would like everyone, please, to roll initiative.
Natural 20. Wasted my 20.
18.
Do you have any modifiers, Karen?
Yeah, so 23.
And Jesse got 18. But what did Yanis get?
And my inhuman reflexes gave me a 9.
You're too busy screaming.
Yeah, I'm checking down the barrel of my gun, contemplating suicide.
The ropey vines. They begin to even crescendo in size and grandeur, picking up pumpkins as they do so. They start to coalesce and form a greater mass. You see this creature standing 20 feet in size, silhouetted by the moon and this wildfire back in the backdrop. It's where it has these multiple arms formed of these vines. This collection of pumpkins illuminated by the flame from behind it, glowing through these lights, where its head would be if it was a creature. And it's in this ropey movement, this wave-like movement. It looks as if it's taking steps, these big, long gait steps towards the three of you. And,
Oh, that needs to die.
and the pumpkins align themselves to make, like a connect the dots style face, just like a face from the pumpkins, each with their own faces, as it starts to look like it's mouthing laughter and chuckling as it approaches the three of you. Karen, what do you do?
So it's still about 20 feet away?
It's, like 50 feet away.
50 feet away?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess who's got the light at this point? I think Branson, do you have the light, or am I carrying? Still carrying it, and you were just relighting it for me.
Yeah, I mean, I believe you had the torch, right? And then I believe
Yeah, I have a lantern.
Alfredo has a lantern.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think all three have one.
Yeah, I think. Well, my torch wouldn't light because it was too dark, or too wet. But I know at one point I had your glow stick.
Yeah, so that's probably not That's not reusable right this second.
Oh, okay.
I can, on my turn, I can light another one if needed, but there's
Right.
I'm the only one who can activate them because of the mechanism.
All right. Okay, so then I have a free hand, so I'm going to pull out a pistol, and I will shoot at the center of the mass to see if any, that'll do any damage. It's long range, but I have a sharpshooter, so I don't take any disadvantage on it.
Cool. Yep. So give me your attack roll then.
16.
Yeah, that totally hits. It's ginormous, this being.
Okay. So 9 points of piercing damage and 2 points of fire damage.
Your shot from your gun, it just blasts in this deafening crack, the smell of sulfur mixing with the petrichor of the rain, the smell of wet earth. It just blasts a chunk of the viney parts of its body, leaving this kind of like gaping hole that's quickly filled in by more vines as it continues to approach. Its long pseudopods swinging with each step. Alfred. Sorry, not Alfred. Branson, it's your turn.
All right. You said this thing's about 50 feet away at this point?
Yes.
After watching the creature approach for a couple of seconds, Branson will put the head of his warhammer down on the ground. The tubes that were on the back end of the shield, the trunk lid shield, he'll take one out, and it's about a foot-long cylinder. and it'll scrape that one end of it along the side of the shield. You'll see sparks come up, and it'll light the end of it. Will light up kind of like a flare. But this one looks a little different from the tubes from earlier. This one's got open flame on it now, and it'll toss that right over at the creature, but just above it. And if he timed it just right, as it crests right above the creature, it'll actually kind of explode and rain down fire on top of it. Is essentially the sacred flame cantrip.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's dexterity saving throw.
It fails it.
All right. In that case, it would take 5 points of radiant damage.
Awesome. Yeah. So just this bright pyrotechnics you spray it down with from above, and it just burns and singes the various leaflets at the top of it. But immediately, as the parts just wither and burn away in the light and in the flame, it's immediately reshapen by more viney tendrils that take its place.
Anybody who was watching the arc of that flare, by the time it went off and they looked back to Branson, Warhammer was back in his hand already, and he was walking right towards the creature and kind of splitting the difference with it at this point.
Awesome, yeah. This creature with its long, disturbing gait closes the distance with you, Branson. And it swings one of its pseudopods at you. But at the end of the pseudopod is a bloodied corpse wrapped with the vines. One hand, in one arm of this corpse, it's holding a longsword, a well-made longsword. Its arm wrapped in more vines. The other arm missing.
So preparing for this, knowing that, I was going to be the first one to engage the creature, just as it's about to swing at me, you'll see Branson rub the edge of his Warhammer across that same gritty part of the shield, and sparks will brighten up the whole area in front of him. This is a reaction warding flare. It'll impose disadvantage on an attack roll.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. So the creature uses Edgar to swing at you. With the disadvantage, it just hits you. Oh, sorry, you get your shield up. Never mind. Sword bounces off of your shield. As you see Edgar's limp body, blood pooling from multiple orifices, its eyes hollowed out. Not there, his eyeballs missing. As Edgar's arm was brought up and brought down to strike upon you. The sword clattering against your shield. But as you brought your shield up, another pseudopod swings down low near your feet. And so warding flare only works on the one attack, right?
Yeah, it's single reaction. Yeah.
Cool. And so this pseudopod just clips you at your feet, knocking you prone and dealing 5 points of damage to you as these vines trip you and then start to wrap around your legs and pull on you. And you just feel the strain on your joints, just like you did just a few, minutes beforehand when you were out in the pumpkin patch, suspended. And it is now Alfred's turn.
Okay, how far is it from me now?
About 30 feet from you.
Yeah, I would take a deep breath, close my eyes. Here we go. Now just bolt. Full speed. Right past Modesty. Next to Branson. Like again, friend. And I'll try to stab it with my dirk. Yeah, that's a 22 to hit.
Yeah, the creature is essentially everywhere. It's hard
Yeah.
to miss it. And as you slash it with your dirk, you can give me your damage.
And that's 7. That's 10 piercing damage, including sneak attack.
Cool. Yeah.
And as I stab it and twist it, I pull my pistol, aim right up towards one of the pumpkins, and shoot
Nice.
as a
Yes.
bonus action.
You can give me an attack roll then for that.
Yeah, that's a 17 to hit.
Yeah, again, that's a hit. You're trying to beat a 12 for this creature to see if you hit.
Okay. 9. That's a 12.
Yeah, and so you just light up and burst one of the pumpkins from beneath. You shoot straight up, and just the pumpkin bits go flying as it just explodes from the pistol shot.
Get up! We got it right where we want it.
This pumpkin monster, for a lack of better words, its pseudopods again start to lash out at you, Alfred, hitting you, knocking you prone, and doing 4 points of damage to you as it just knocks you prone, as it whips you to the ground, pulls you up by your ankles, and slaps you into the ground again. Another maybe 10 feet off. It's got you gripped by the ankles.
Just as I say, we got him right where we want him. I'm whisked away.
Modesty, it is your turn.
Okay, so I see that Alfred got, is being, bashed around by this vine, and so in kind of a quick hurry, she grabs her rifle that she'd already reloaded back, and she's going to fire off the shot. So I'm going to use the ability where I take a -5 to my attack roll to get more damage.
Cool, yeah.
On it. So here's to hoping. That would be a 10. So I miss.
Yeah, and so these snaking tendrils move around in very unnerving and unpredictable ways. And just as you thought you had a shot lined up, it had completely moved as it just kind of amorphously shifted its figure to avoid your shot.
Yeah. So Modesty kind of swears under her breath, and that's pretty much the end of her turn. She's not going to come any closer. She might actually retreat a little bit, and she's going to get prepared to load her rifle for next turn.
Awesome, yeah. Branson, you are being pulled at your feet as you're prone on the ground.
Okay. Seeing that precision isn't working, and it's not really Branson's forte either, and after being attacked with the remains of an old friend who he owed a favor to, Branson will let go of his warhammer, reach into his belt and grab that pepper box that Edgar gave him so many years ago. Take a deep breath and fire right into the center mass. And that is a natural 1.
So in the rain, in the downpour, your powder in this pepper box, you hadn't been using it, and you didn't realize that it had gotten drenched as well. And as you try to fire, it just doesn't even work. And
The Alfredo being close by will probably hear Branson mutter under his breath, that old asshole. Damn it, Edgar.
And this pepper box won't work until you use an action to scrape out the caked, wet powder and replace it with proper stuff.
Tend to your guns, man!
The pumpkin monster pulls on your legs more, Branson, as it pulls you upwards into the air. You can make a strength check, please.
All right. That is 14, 15, 16.
And as you do, you're able to grab onto something around you as you're being pulled up, and you dig your hands into the mud, and you just strain against the pull of the creature, and you succeed. You win. As the vines actually snap one by one, like cords of a rope after under too much tension. And they snap and retreat and fly off in the air. But you're prone and open to attack as the creature brings down Edgar, manipulates its arm to point the sword at you, and strikes this longsword into your side, doing 5 points of piercing damage to you. As it stabs you with the sword.
After a brief scream, probably the first time you've actually seen Branson show pain and all that, the grunt, his eyes will roll back as his head will hit the mud. I am unconscious.
All right, it's Alfred's turn. You have been flung around by the ankles. What do you like to do?
Is the vine still holding me?
Yes. And you are essentially grappled. You can make a strength, so you can make an athletics or acrobatics check to break free of this grapple without cost your action to do so.
I will try to wiggle out of this dead vine. No, I'm not. That's an 8.
Yeah, as you pull, I imagine you take your hands and you bend over and try to pull at the vines around your ankles. But as you do, they just tighten. And you can just feel the barbs and thorns on the vines just break through the clothing around your ankles and pierce your skin, doing 1 point of damage to you as they just start vicing your legs and just drawing blood.
Am I in range of the creature, or am I away from him? For a melee attack?
You can attack the pseudopod grabbing onto you. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll use my dirk to try and slice it away.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I'll let you actually roll that dexterity check again, essentially giving you advantage using the knife to help pry yourself free.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pass. That's a 12 on the die plus 5.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so you drew the blood, but then you whip around with the dagger, the dirk, and you just slice at the cords as they wrap around you, and you break yourself. You get yourself free as you cut yourself loose. And as you sever these vines, they wither away to ash, essentially, as they break off from the main creature, and they just turn to dust and fall at your feet.
Okay, can I still have my action?
The action was to break yourself free.
Okay. I'll
You still have a movement, though.
I'll get up and go and take a look above Branson. Okay, bud? And that's my turn.
The pseudopods continue to flail around, sweeping at the ground, knocking Branson's body to one side, kind of flipping him over onto his front. And they try to slap at you, Alfred, and they doing 2 points of damage to you as they just kind of batter and knock you aside, hitting you probably in the lower rib cage area.
As I was looking towards Branson, seeing if he's okay, I would imagine a vine hit me straight in the chest, knocking the air out of me. It knocks me right on the ground next to him, unconscious.
Modesty. You're the last one standing against this ginormous pumpkin pseudopod vine monster. You can see the pumpkins one burst, but they are lining in this conniving evil grin. That's all you can see. What would you like to do?
I'm going to reload my rifle this turn and move backwards away from the creature.
Yeah, awesome.
That's how I'm going to spend my turn.
Branson, I'd like you to make your death saving throw, please.
Sure thing. Is a 12 plus what? 13.
So that's a pass for you.
Yep.
The pumpkin continues to wrap its vines around you, Branson, around your arms, around your legs, around your neck, suspending you up in the air. As it tightens and restricts the blood flow and severs you in places with the thorns, this counts as an automatic death failure as you're suspended up in the air and also manipulated like Edgar was. And Modesty, you were attacked by the corpse of Branson and the corpse of Edgar in a kind of a 1-2 flail punch. So Branson comes down, swinging his warhammer at you, hitting you for 4 points of bludgeoning damage with this warhammer. And Edgar, the creature swings Edgar around to strike you with Edgar's sword, but the sword falls out of his hand in just the momentum, and nothing happens as just the attack swings short as Edgar now holds no weapon in his hand, and the sword kind of just lodged itself into the muddy earth below. Yanis, I would like you to give Alfred a death save, please.
That is 10.
That's a pass.
Yeah, not even close.
The creature grabs Alfred's corpse with another pseudopod, wrapping its vines around him as well, and manipulates him in such a way to attack you, Modesty, with the dirk held in his hand. And the dirk catches you in a very vital spot. I imagine maybe the middle of your chest, getting a critical hit, doing 9 points of piercing damage to you.
Ow! Okay, I am at 0.
And everything fades to black. We see the moon slowly descend down the horizon, into the horizon. The downpour eventually extinguishes the flame of this wildfire. We see the sun creep up over the mountains, casting the area in this orangey, reddish glow of sunrise. We see one of the villagers walking out past the village of Don Wallow. Crosses the bridge and sees 4 corpses strung up by vines in this pumpkin patch. The corpses of Edgar, the corpses of Edgar, Alfred, Branson, and Modesty. And that's where we're ending.
Very nice. I was hoping it would end with us being like scarecrows.
Yeah.
I forgot the details. Sorry, you all suspended there, and you have pumpkins over your heads.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Yeah,
We should have pumpkins over our heads.
pumpkins over your heads.
Yeah, beautiful.
I could just imagine the same villager walking by about 15 minutes later with that squeaky wheel trunk.
Yeah.
Oh, what's this?
Yeah. It's really neat what you can come up with when you just see a random picture on the internet.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that picture's not going to terrify me while I'm trying to sleep tonight at all.
You know,
Or
I,
will
Let's see
Halloween
anyway.
do anything to you now, in what, 2 or 3 months? You won't be able to look at a pumpkin the same way anymore.
yeah, pumpkin pie used to be my favorite pie.
Before we got started, I was telling Connor that I live out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Like the Amish country, all the farmland, basically where they made children of the corn. Yeah. So, yeah.
Exactly.
There's all kinds of those farms, within a mile of it. So, yeah, no, not terrifying at all.
Yes. I now share Modesty's hate for vegetables.
Oh, yuck.
So this is Dice on Ice signing out for this game. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks so much for running it.
Thank you. I'm going to
Very
end the
lovely
broadcast
setting.
now. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys.